Hello, everyone. I am Shahram Sarudi. I'm the senior analyst at OC Auto Consultants. OC Auto Consultants is a consulting and market research firm in the automotive field. Our main function is research, basically, in the field of automobiles. Our analysts gather all the technical specifications and the results of all the technical tests that are done on the 400 distinct models of automobiles in the US market. They analyze it and they store it so that we could use that in the future for our clients who are in the market to purchase or lease a new vehicle in the US market. We work in all 50 states. Anywhere, any major city that you live in, we are in direct contact with all marques and brands, at all dealerships. We have no bias toward any particular brand. We work with all brands. We receive 100% of our consulting fee from the client or from the consumer. So that gives us the freedom and latitude to basically defend your interests as our client. One of the fundamental reasons that we established this company back in 2004 was that for years what we have done is we have gone to the car dealerships to purchase a vehicle and to gather information and to test drive vehicles. And there's always been a conflict of interest there. If you're going there to the dealership for the purpose of research and test drive, the issue is that, yes, you do receive information from the dealership from for salespeople, but that information happens to be biased information because their job is to sell that particular brand that they carry and what they have in their inventory. And your interest is to purchase or lease the vehicle that is most suitable for your driving needs, for your driving style, for the type of roads you drive on, and for your usage. So there's always been that conflict of interest. I mean, think about this conflict of interest. Their interest, the interest of the salesperson, is to sell that vehicle at the maximum profit because his job is to protect the interests of the dealership. Your interest is to receive the vehicle at maximum discount, at the lowest possible profit for the dealership. So that conflict of interest justifies having a neutral, unbiased consulting company whose sole purpose is to defend the interest of the consumer. You could receive a lot of info. If you go and visit our website, www.ocautoconsult.com, there are a lot of information in there, a lot of educational material. Please save the link and email it to your friends, family members, acquaintances, because about 95% of this website are educational material. And if you want to look at our fees and policies, you could see that on our website. Basically, I'm going to go through the process. So here in life, basically, for different matters, we use experts / professionals / specialists. For example, for our tax purposes, we go to a tax accountant. For our medical needs, we go to our family doctor. For our dental needs, we go to the dentist. For financial and investment issues, we go to our family or personal financial planner. Even for purchasing a property, we go to our personal real estate. And we have never had this luxury of having a personal or family automobile consultant. And that's our goal, because automobile is not something that would happen once or twice. On average in the United States, consumers change their cars every 4 years. And think about it. Not only does it happen frequently, but also it happens for different family members. Happens for your kids. Sometimes you buy cars for your mother and for your parents, basically, or even for your brother and sister. So having a family automobile consultant every time you want to purchase or lease a vehicle can be very beneficial to you. Can put you ahead. If you add it all up over the lifetime, it could be thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, I'm going to go quickly through our process, and if you pay close attention to these new processes, you'll notice that we have not done just process improvement from the what we have done in the past, the traditional processes. In certain cases, we have turned around this process, we have transformed them 180 degrees, and we've really streamlined the whole processes to make it more efficient, save the consumers a lot of time and money, and most importantly, make it right, which is the most critical part of this. Choosing the right vehicle, that's the most critical part of it. So step number one basically is the selection process, and again, traditionally what we have done is we go by the word of mouth, or we chase ads, or we have different media, TV, television, radio, newspaper, internet influence our decision. What we do is we have a very systematic process. What we do is we start with technical elimination of these 400 distinct models of cars and trucks from your input. Basically, we ask you, what your usage of the vehicle is, what your driving style is, what your driving experience is, how many passengers do you have, how much space do you need, what type of roads do you drive on. That's very critical. The types of roads you drive on are very critical because it does matter whether you're on the secondary roads or high-speed freeways and highways. It does matter whether you drive on straight roads or mountainous roads with very sharp curves, and whether you drive on dry roads or on roads with snow, ice, rain conditions. Once we gather this information from you, from your usage and driving style, basically, our softwares try to match your priorities and the information we gathered from you, try to match it with the technical specifications of the 400 models that we have that we have already stored in the computer, and the result would be these 400 models would get eliminated to 4 or 5 models that, from a technical standpoint, equally match all your needs and driving style and types of roads you drive on. Once we're down to 4 or 5 models, obviously that becomes a lot more manageable than dealing with 400 models. The next step is the financial analysis of these vehicles. Very, very important, very critical. And financial analysis starts with the method of transaction. There are different methods that we could use based on your financial situation and based on what is suitable for that particular vehicle that you're purchasing or leasing. Basically, the different methods of transaction are leasing. And leasing there's 2 different types of leasing. There's leasing with the intention of returning the vehicle at lease end, and there's leasing with the intention of purchasing the vehicle at lease end. And then there is obviously purchasing the vehicle up front or financing it. And then in certain cases, certified pre-owned vehicles, if there's enough depreciation in that vehicle and if the vehicles are reliable enough, a 3-4-year-old, with usually less than 50,000 miles, sometimes they make sense if the monthly payment on a 48-month financing is less than, let's say, leasing it brand new. At certain times, if there's not good enough incentives on a brand new vehicle, a certified pre-owned vehicle does make sense. After that, the next step, after determining the method of transaction, is we move into manufacturer incentives. They're very, very important. Sometimes up to 70% of the total discount comes from the manufacturer, and only 30% comes from that individual dealership. So it's very important that you choose the right vehicle that has the best manufacturer incentives. And there are different incentives. There's cash, there's rebates, there are marketing support, which is the cash that goes from the manufacturer to the dealer. There are lease specials, subsidized leases through the manufacturer, and there are low percent financing that sometimes you see on TV, 0% financing, 1.9%, 0.9%. So what we do is, we look at those incentives, and remember, these incentives from the manufacturer are they're variable. They fluctuate all the time. Sometimes they change weekly, sometimes they change monthly. So it's just like the stock market. It's our job to monitor them on a continual basis, to be aware of them, to be updated with them, basically. So once we get to that step, once the financial analysis is completed, we are we're down to one or two models. The 400 models are down to one or two models, and we know that these one or two models, both from a technical standpoint, from matching your needs and vehicle usage and driving style, and from a financial standpoint, are the best. The best, basically, that vehicle is the best of both worlds. That is the process of customizing or tailor-making this vehicle to you. Basically, let's say you want to buy a house, and in that town, in that geographical area or town, there are 500 available houses that you want to look at. You have a choice of picking one of those, or you could go and buy an empty land and custom build the house for yourself. Get an architect, possibly an engineer, and get a builder and custom build it exactly to your requirements and to your desires. And when we eliminate these 400 cars from 400 down to one or two, this is the equivalent of having that custom built house, basically, if you want to have an analogy here. Okay, so once we're down to one model, then we get into some of the personal stuff, such as the color. Obviously, that's a personal taste. And then the options are important. Some of the options are safety options, and we have to do a value analysis for you to see if they're worth the extra money to pay the extra money for. Some of the options are luxury options. Obviously, everything will be discussed to determine what options have the most return for your money, basically. And then, so at that point, the vehicle, the make and model is determined, the color is determined, and the options are determined. Basically, the vehicle is built, custom built. And we get to the next step, somewhere near your house, any city that you live in, basically maximum let's say a 50 to 60 mile radius at maximum. We work with all dealerships. We will find a car, the exact car, and we have handpicked select dealerships, new car franchises that we deal with. Out of the 20,000 new car franchises in the United States, we have handpicked about 2,500 of them, and they have very exclusive characteristics that I'm going to explain to you what those characteristics are. First of all, they deal with you in a professional manner. All those traditional gamesmanship, all the games are eliminated. If you enjoy the games, please do not call us, because when it comes to games, our company is on a zero tolerance policy. Basically, part of the reason that we established this company was to get rid of the games, because a lot of people don't enjoy it. But if you're one of those, 1 in 1,000 that does enjoy those games of, going from dealership to dealership and butting heads and negotiating and all those things, please do not contact us. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time. Those traditional games of, walking into the dealership wanting a white car, walking out with a red car, wanting certain options, wanting leather and navigation, and walking out without those options that you desire, are over. Everything is all set and predetermined, and the prices are set in stone, basically. They're all predetermined before you walk into the dealership. What we're going to do is, after we find a car, these dealerships, work on a high volume model. It's very similar to the Costco model. Basically, they sell in high volumes, but they make less profit per vehicle. So, in other words, they are able to give us the absolute lowest possible price in that geographical region. So, we always offer that to you. So, what we'll do is we'll email you all the specifications of the vehicle, all the options, how much you have to put down, what the lease or the purchase, what the monthly payments are, what the tax are. All the details are sent to you, along with the contact dealership for that, the address of the dealership. And we only work with sales managers at dealership. We don't work with salespeople. We work with sales managers, We will send you the name of the sales manager and the phone number of that sales manager. Once you receive that email, we expect you to either within 48 hours visit the dealership and sign the paperwork and pick up the vehicle. Or if you, for whatever reason, because of your busy schedule, if you're traveling or for whatever reason you cannot make it within 48 hours, you need to call that telephone number that we provide within 24 hours, and they take a refundable $500 deposit on your credit card to hold the vehicle. That secures the vehicle, and we're not worried that that vehicle is going to get sold. And as you know, a lot of us have this experience that these days, if you're looking for a certain vehicle with a certain combination of color and options, there might be only one of them at the dealership. It's not like what it used to be 10 years ago when there's 10 of everything. There might be only one. So if the vehicle gets sold, then we have to do redundant work. And if we have to do redundant work, you will be charged again. So it's very important that you do that. You do that securing the vehicle by leaving a deposit in your credit card. And remember that deposit is refundable. You get 100% of it back. And also take advantage, you know, the incentives and that discount is very time sensitive. The discount we get you today might not be good within 1 week. It might be good up to 1 week, but beyond that might not be good anymore. So it's very important to take advantage of that deal that we get you, because it could change. And you know, if you wait too long and it changes, like, we cannot guarantee having the same exact deal. And also, if you do not go and pick the vehicle up within 48 hours or secure the vehicle by some means of your credit card, what happens is you waste our consulting fee, because you know, we're providing professional services, and regardless of whether you pick the vehicle up or not, we will charge that consulting fee. So if our consulting fee is not a contingency fee. Sometimes you have contingencies. For example, you tell an attorney, okay, if you win my case, I'll give you a certain percentage. Or you tell a salesperson, if you sell the vehicle, we will give you a certain percentage commission. Our fees are consulting fees, just like when you go to the doctor, just like when you go to your accountant. We provide a professional service, and we receive the fee. It is not contingent upon you picking the vehicle up at the end or not. So make sure you don't waste that. Make sure you go pick the vehicle up. And you could see our fees if you go on www.ocautoconsult.com under fees and policies. You could see our fees. If you have any questions from the website, I'll be glad to answer them. You could call me at the number that you see on the screen. And like I said, you know, we're trying to establish this professional relationship with you, and professional relationships are different from you know, buyer and seller, the traditional buyer and seller relationship. Professional relationship is like when a buyer and seller relationship is when you take 10 weekends to go, you know, waste your time and go, you know, negotiate with 10 different dealerships and butt heads with them, and there's no expectation either way. There's no expectations from your side to buy the vehicle, and there's no expectation from the seller to sell the vehicle. But a professional relationship is the relationship you have, you know, similar to, let's say, your tax attorney. When you go to your tax attorney, he takes a certain input from you. He does a professional job. It takes an hour and a half to do that tax return for you. At the end, there's no legal contract that says, okay, you have to sign that tax return. However, there's this professional courtesy and professional expectations that you will do it. And yes, when you use our services, we will charge the fee, and then we also expect you to continue to the end and go and pick the vehicle up, take delivery of the vehicle. There's a professional expectation there. Okay. The main topic today is safety. Safety, you know, we do a lot of, at OC Auto Consultants, we do a lot of technical calculations and a lot of technical analysis. However, we particularly spend a lot of time researching the safety performance of vehicles, whether it's the safety specifications or the results of crash tests and other safety tests that are done on the vehicles. And the reason that safety is on top of our #1 on our list of technical research is that safety is priceless. You cannot place a put a price on lives or health or injuries. Basically, absolutely priceless. Safety has got different categories. The main two categories are active safety and passive safety. Active safety are all the engineering and all the technology that goes into a vehicle to prevent the accident before the accident happens. Systems such as the camera systems that enhance the visibility to prevent accidents. Of course, the braking systems are important to prevent accidents. And of course, the chassis, the suspension system, and the steering system that helps to change directions, especially in emergency maneuvers. They're very, very critical parts of the active safety systems of a vehicle. Passive systems are all the engineering and all the technology that protects the lives of the passengers after an accident happens. Most important is the body structure, especially the crush structure that absorbs the energy of a crash so that the energy is not transferred directly to the vehicle occupants. Airbags, of course, are part of the passive safety. Seat belts, and even the seats. Seats vary from one make from one model to another. There's a huge difference. They're like mattresses, basically. You could go pay $500 for a mattress. You could go pay $5,000 for a mattress. And seats play a major role, especially both the seats and the headrests play a major role in vehicle safety after crash. So these are all part of the passive safety system. And here we could put an argument together that active safety systems that prevent a crash are always more critical or more important. And there are several reasons. First of all, like I said, if the accident happens, there's always a possibility of injury, serious injury or losing your life. So that part is priceless. So if the accident doesn't happen at all, if the vehicle is so safe that it doesn't get into an accident, that's the best scenario that you could have. Remember Princess Diana. Princess Diana, less than 20 years ago when she died, at the time she was in a Mercedes S-Class. At the time, that vehicle was the best, the safest vehicle on the road. And still, see what happened. Still, her and a few passengers in the vehicle lost their lives. So there's no safety system that's absolutely bulletproof. So if the accident doesn't happen, it's much better. So most of the focus should go on active systems, active safety systems that prevent the accident. The second reason is if you get into any types of accident, whether it's a severe accident or just a fender bender, there's always headaches. You lose the usage of the vehicle. Let's say you want to let's say you're a student and you want to make it to the school for an important test. Or let's say you're an attorney and you're trying to make yourself to a very important court date. Or if you're a doctor and you're trying to make it to a very important surgery. If you lose usage of that vehicle, it's just a headache and hassle, basically. And also, we don't always think about this. When you get into an accident, true, you have insurance for accidents. You know, you have Geico or Liberty Mutual or Nationwide, whoever you have for your insurance company. And that insurance company restores the vehicle to brand new. But what happens is when you get into an accident, that accident goes into the electronic record of the vehicle. Sometimes they call it Carfax, depends on, there are several. And that electronic record or electronic history of the vehicle is going to record that accident. And there's depreciation. There is additional incremental depreciation associated with that accident, especially if it's a severe accident that damages, that they call it the chassis damage, and or frame damage, I'm sorry. And that frame damage, if you're driving an expensive car, even though the insurance company has restored the vehicle through the repair shop to brand new, that stays on the record of the vehicle. And if the vehicle is yours, you will pay for that depreciation. However, I mentioned this before, by leasing it, you're protecting yourself, because if such thing happens, you return the vehicle at lease end to the bank, and the bank is going to assume responsibility for that, or take the loss because of that extra depreciation due to that particular accident. So that's another part. And then the last part is if you get into if the accidents don't happen, that's the best, because if you get into an accident, insurance company will take care of you, but guess what? The rates are going to go up the next day. So, and sometimes when you're in a family, you know, your son or daughter or somebody gets in an accident, rates for everyone, all the family members go up. So if you don't get into an accident, that's the best. Insurance it helps, obviously, but it's not the perfect solution here. And then also remember this issue of gap insurance. Gap insurance is very important. When you lease or purchase a vehicle, always take that option. Sometimes it is part of the lease. Sometimes when you go into the finance office, they ask you, do you want gap insurance? It's something not very expensive. It's usually $10 to $15 a month. And what happens is if for some reason you get into a very severe accident, and this happens very often, and the insurance company, instead of fixing the vehicle, they decide to total it. They say the vehicle is total. If they total the vehicle, whatever the difference between the market price of that vehicle is and what you owe to the bank, whether it's a lease or a finance, you have to come up with from your pocket. But that gap insurance covers that covers the difference. So if for whatever reason there's a severe accident and the vehicle's totaled, you don't have to pay a penny, because whatever the difference is between the market price and your payoff, gap insurance would cover that. Always check that box. Sometimes it is included in leases. Sometimes they charge you extra, but it's cheap. It's $10 to $15 per month. It's very critical that you do that, because you never know what happens. So, in accidents, a very, very important function of our company, I'm sorry, when it comes to safety, one of our jobs is to customize the safety of that vehicle to the particular driver and the types of roads that they drive. In other words, the vehicle that's safe for you might not be the safest for your 21-year-old daughter, might not be the safest for your 75-year-old father, might not be the safest for your wife with two young kids. So customizing and tailor-making the safety, each vehicle should be, from a safety standpoint, should be customized and tailor-made to the experience of that driver and the driving conditions, the roads, the types of roads they drive on. So in evaluating these risks, remember the high-risk areas or the high-risk segments, basically. You know, most of the people, most of the drivers over the age of 60, because of the slower reaction time, they are in a high-risk area. There's data out there, and I'm not just talking from the air. There is a statistics that elderly over the age of 60, their frequency of accidents per mile driven are higher. Of course, you know, youngsters under 25, because of their driving experience, lack of driving experience, their frequency is higher. So when we're deciding on a vehicle, or when you're selecting a vehicle for others, especially these high risks, there are people under 25 and elderly over age of 60. Be very careful. You do have certain responsibilities, especially if you're choosing the vehicle for them. And of course, you know, the types of roads, I mentioned this already. The vehicles that are safe for the freeway and the highway might not be as safe, let's say, in secondary roads, or might not be as safe on mountainous roads with sharp curves. Okay, we have a very quick video. I'm gonna describe the video for a few minutes, and then we're gonna put the video on for you. One of the major issues on U.S. highways is the issue of compatibility between vehicles. What has happened is, in the past 20 years or so, the sales of SUVs have grown tenfold. In other words, 20 years ago, there was only about roughly 400,000 SUVs per year, brand new SUVs that were leased or purchased. Last year, there were 4 million, 10 times the amount. And then at the same time, in the past few years, because of the gas prices and because of the economic condition, there's been also a lot of downsizing. It's a lot of smaller cars, mini cars, such as Fiat, such as the Nissan Versa, such as the Honda Fit, And this is this compatibility, this composition of this larger vehicles and smaller vehicles is a major challenge for engineers, because you know, some of these vehicles weigh twice as much as the smaller vehicles. A lot of SUVs are over 4,500 pounds, and you see some of these smaller vehicles under 2,500 pounds, and this is a major challenge. And you got to be very careful in head-on collisions. If you're driving a much bigger vehicle, obviously you're much safer. And on broad-sided accidents, on T-bone accidents, this is very, very critical. SUVs are both taller and they're heavier, and they could inflict major damage, because you know, on a broadside accident, there's not a lot of crush space. The distance between the front bumper and the driver or the passenger, there's only you know, a few inches basically of crush space. And if you would put the video on without the voice, and I'm going to describe what I mean by this issue of incompatibility. And this is one of the engineers that works for Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. And in this picture, in the next shot, you will see what happens when a 5,000-pound truck hits a 2,500-pound smaller car. This is the broad-sided accident I was talking about. And then see how the height of the bumpers is a major issue, and then of course the weight of the vehicle. Both of them are issues. Definitely safety has to be analyzed. Definitely discuss it with us, because it's an issue. Because a lot of us, you know, we try to pinch pennies here and there, or say, oh, you know, that vehicle uses too much gas, and we are sacrificing our safety or the safety of our loved ones to save a few bucks every month by downsizing into smaller vehicles such as Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, or even smaller cars such as Smart Fortwo or Fiat, or you know, the Toyota Yaris. You know, these are small cars. Look at exactly what happens when a much bigger vehicle hits you in a broadside accident. This could happen on any intersection. If somebody runs the red light, you know, it's not a very unique situation. It happens every day in the United States. Definitely protect yourself. Major issue here. The compatibility, when they're bigger, there's a composition of a lot of bigger cars. And also don't forget the pickup trucks. A lot of pickup trucks in the United States. A lot of contractors, they drive vans or pickup trucks. There was over 3 million pickup trucks sold last year. Most of these are over 5,000 pounds. And think about your Toyota Corolla, your Nissan Sentra that weigh 2,400 pounds. These vehicles can inflict major damage. I always tell my clients, you know, I could always, you know, when you're trying to save money, you know, $50 per month here and there, I could always recommend a vehicle that is somewhere between 30 to 50% safer in an accident, with an incremental $50 per month. So if you're willing, is it worth it? Of course it's worth it to pay an extra $50 per month to have a vehicle that's 50% safer. Always take advantage of our analysis, our safety analysis, for very, very you know, insignificant extra amount of money. And then same thing with the gas mileage issues. I could offer you vehicles that use maybe $10, $15 per month more in gas, incrementally more in gas, but are 50% safer. Is that worth it? Of course it's worth it. It's inarguable. So when we were talking about passive safety and the body structure and protecting the passengers after a crash, there's a lot of perceptions here. You know, years ago, 20 years ago, both Volvo and Mercedes-Benz were God in this area. You know, they were number one, with number two a long distance, a distance second basically. No one was even close. Basically, if you got into, let's say, a major accident with, let's say, with your E-Class E350 Mercedes, you had about your chance of having a major injury. By major injury, I mean something permanent, either losing your life or something permanent like paralysis or damage to the brain or damage to the spinal cord or damage to the disc, something serious that requires going to the hospital. I'm not talking about minor things such as breaking your ankle or breaking your arm. There was 100% less chance of having, when compared to, of having a major damage or major injury when compared to some of the competitors such as Lexus, such as Acura. But these days, a lot of companies have improved their safety engineering so much within the past 20 years that a lot of these companies have either reached, they have reached number one, which used to be Volvo and Mercedes-Benz. Some of them have even surpassed it. You look at some of the Audi models, they're safer than Mercedes-Benz. You look at some of the Cadillac or some of the models made by General Motors. The Korean makers, Hyundai and Kia, they're superb in engineering. The way they have improved is just unreal, the way they have improved in the past 10 years. Some of their models are just as good as Mercedes and Volvo. And of course, from a lot of Japanese models have improved drastically. The best of the best right now from Japan is Honda and Acura, as they do some amazing safety engineering on their vehicles. So this whole issue of protecting after the accident, or the body structure and the airbags, there is a lot of parity now among the competitors. So one competitor might be 5% better, but it's not like before where you see Mercedes-Benz beating everyone by 80, 90%. It might be 5 to 10% superiority in a crash protection of the passenger. So it has almost become a non-factor. Still, there are some cars that are safer. But the focus has turned from from passive safety, which is protection of the passengers after the accident, to systems, to the engineering, and to active safety, which is the engineering and all the technologies that prevent the accident. That's where the vehicles are more differentiated on the active side of crash prevention. But like I said, when it comes to protection after crash or performance after crash, it's not the brand anymore. Used to be Mercedes-Benz and Volvo. It's not that anymore. It's more this compatibility issue of get something that's a substantial size, because there are a lot of big cars on the road, a lot of pickup trucks, a lot of vans, and a lot of SUVs that are over 4,500 pounds, over 5,000 pounds. So I would say at the minimum, you got to be at something the size of Honda Accord or Toyota Camry, just to have minimal protection, basically, from a weight and mass standpoint. Also, one of the best ways to upgrade in safety is going from, let's say, something like a Corolla into a compact SUV, because if you have limits, limits for your parking, in other words, the length and width of the vehicle are too big for your parking space, for your garage, for your parking space in front of your office or wherever you go, you could get a compact SUV that's the same length and the same width, so it's got the same footprint basically. However, it could be 50% safer in a accident, especially in the broadside accident where you get hit from the side. So compact SUVs are definitely a good upgrade to make yourself safer. A lot of times, they're anywhere between 30 to 50% safer in a broadside accident, and sometimes in a head-on collision. So definitely something to consider. Or we could always, looking at the factory specials, we could always offer you a compact SUV that for an incremental $50 per month, it's only an extra $50 per month versus your compact car, let's say Honda Fit or Toyota Corolla or Chevrolet Cruze or Ford Fiesta or Ford Focus. So always remember the $50 magic number. Using us, we could always upgrade you into something much safer for an extra $50 per month. Okay, so let's turn our focus into active safety. Active safety, like I said, a lot of manufacturers, this is where the differentiation between vehicles is happening, because on the passive safety, on the body structure and passenger protection, there's a lot of parity these days. Active safety, from the moment you open the door of the vehicle, active safety starts. Crash prevention starts with the driving position, the driver's position relevant to all the primary controls, the steering, the gas pedal, the brake pedal, and the gear shifter. And lots of times, a lot of cars have enough adjustability. If you're too tall or if you're too short, definitely discuss that with us, because certain cars have extra adjustability for shorter drivers or very tall drivers. And visibility, especially if you're shorter. Let's say you're under, I don't know, under 5'5". Certain vehicles are much better in 360-degree visibility, and visibility is very, very important. It prevents crashes and it prevents fender benders, especially when you want to park the car. Ergonomics are very important. Ergonomics of the cabin, of the instrument panel. How readable are all the main gadgets in the car, such as the speedometer, the odometer, the fuel gauge, all the controls. How much the whole category is ergonomics. Basically, how accessible are the main controls? For heating and ventilation and air conditioning, for the navigation system, all the controls for the stereo system, for your iPod, for your Bluetooth. All these things are important, because first of all, you want to have good access. The driver should have good access to them. The second thing is that you don't want them, when you're operating them, you don't want to be distracted from the road. If you're driving on a highway at 65 miles an hour, you want to have your full attention on the road, not playing around with the how do I get the navigation working? How do I get the stereo system to the radio station to change? These are all part of ergonomics, and they're all part of the active safety system, because they could prevent accidents. What else? The camera systems. A lot of them are optional. A lot of the rear camera systems, in other words, when you put the vehicle in reverse and you see the back of the vehicle, a lot of those are becoming standard on many, many models, even the less expensive models. Parking sensors are very useful. They are, a lot of cars are optional, but they're not expensive options. Most of these options are less than $1,000. Let's discuss them on an individual basis to see if they make sense for you. If you on a regular basis you have to park in very tight parking spaces, they do make sense to pay that extra dollar for. And then there's also more sophisticated camera systems, such as the round view, where it shows you the four corners of the vehicle. Definitely useful when parking. Don't forget the blind spot monitoring. Blind spot on a highway, when you're driving and you want to change lanes, it senses whether there is a vehicle in your blind spot. If there is a vehicle to your left or to your right and you don't see that vehicle because it is in your blind spot, you see this blinker in your mirror that blinks, that says there is a vehicle. Let it pass, and then you could change lanes. Very useful option. A lot of times you see it less than $500. Definitely worth the money. And then the cross traffic alert is very important in a mall or some parking space. When you back out, it tells you if there's a car coming. A lot of times you might have one tall SUV to your right parked, one tall SUV to your left. So you're basically surrounded by two SUVs on the left and right, and you can't, as you're pulling back, as you're in reverse and pulling out of your parking spot in the mall, you can't see if there's a vehicle coming. The cross traffic alert is very important. It tells you whether there's a vehicle coming. It starts beeping and blinking. Let the vehicle pass, then you could back up. Primary controls are all important. Acceleration is very important. A lot of people say, oh, this thing has got too much power, it's not safe. Absolutely wrong. A lot of times you do need acceleration, especially when you're merging on the highway or freeway. I was just discussing this with a friend. Sometimes some of the road systems, especially in the Northeast, in Massachusetts where we live, New York, anywhere, the older cities such as Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., sometimes when you look at the highway system and you compare it with California, sometimes you feel like you came from a third world country. I mean, some of these roads are much older, especially in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. And sometimes literally they give you 50, 60 feet to get up to speed. Basically, there's a sharp turn on the ramp, and then you have 60 feet to take off from 0 up to 60 miles an hour to get up to speed, to the highway speed. And it's very important to get up to speed, to highway speed. Imagine if there's a semi-trailer or or a tractor trailer or something is coming at 65 miles an hour. You have to, when you merge into the freeway, you have to be at the speed of the freeway. You have to be at the maximum. You cannot just casually merge. And some of these roads, unfortunately, in the Northeast, it's the engineering, the road engineering and the highway engineering is unbelievable when compared to California. They don't give you enough space to take off, and you do need some space to take off. So acceleration is very important. Braking is obvious. There's major differentiation in the braking performance between vehicles. Sometimes you have a vehicle that, let's say you're driving at 80 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the whole highway stops. What happens is you see one vehicle that takes about 260 feet to stop from 80 miles an hour. Then you see a direct competitor that stops at 200 feet, 60 feet shorter. 60 feet is like the length of 4 cars. It's a huge difference because it could be a difference between hitting the car in front of you and not hitting it. So brakes are very important if you do high-speed driving or if you do a lot of driving in curvy mountainous roads, because mountainous roads, they put a lot of stress on the brakes. They heat up the brakes. So definitely discuss that with us. We'll mention to you, or we'll help you select the vehicle that's got the best brakes. So a lot of people think, oh, brakes are brakes. You hit them and they stop. No, there's a huge difference between the performance of braking systems. And definitely, watch out if you're in an SUV or something, heavy SUV, and you're tailgating some other sports car. Be careful, because that sports car, if it stops a lot shorter. You're going to go run straight into their trunk, because an SUV, a heavy SUV, let's say you're driving a Range Rover, let's say you're driving a Mercedes GL, let's say you're driving a Cadillac Escalade, you're not going to be able to stop at the same distance as a BMW 325i or a Maserati or a Camaro or Corvette. So be careful. Always keep the distance to the driver in front of you. Drivetrains are important in active safety. There's a huge difference between the 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive systems and the way they transfer the power to the different wheels. For our friends who live in the Rust Belt northern states with a lot of snow and ice, stability on the highways that are covered with snow and ice, there's a huge difference. Just because you have all-wheel drive doesn't mean that all the vehicles that have all-wheel drive are equal, because some of them are a lot more sophisticated, some of them are less sophisticated, and that affects high-speed stability when you're driving on ice and snow. So definitely discuss that with us. We'll discuss it. And then these days they're using some of the all-wheel drive systems and some of the rear differentials to even help handling. So people who do a lot of driving on roads with sharp curves, active differentials, or some people call it super handling all-wheel drive, not only helps you on top of snow and ice for stability, but it helps you in the handling. It reduces oversteer or understeer, which helps the stability of the vehicle when you drive at a high rate of speed on a sharp curve. So they're using sophisticated all-wheel drive systems to help handling, and sometimes they even help emergency handling. And what else are, and remember, all these active systems that prevent accidents, they become more critical for those high-risk segments. Youngsters, when you buy a vehicle for your son or daughter, that they don't have as much driving experience. And the last point are is the handling, the actual chassis system. Handling is a huge thing. There's a lot of SUVs on the road. A lot of them flip over, and you got to be very careful. And there's a huge difference in the tendency to flip over or the tendency to lose control on a turn, or, like I said, flipping over because of some emergency maneuver. There's a huge difference between SUVs. Has to be customized to the individual driver and their driving experience and the type of roads you drive. If you drive on back roads, usually less than 40 miles an hour, obviously rollover or flip over is not a major issue. But if you're driving on a highway at high speed and you have to do a high-speed maneuver, some SUVs have a lot higher tendency to roll over than others. It's a huge thing. Definitely discuss it with us. Or if you're driving on, again, mountainous curvy roads with sharp curves, there's a huge difference between the performance of SUVs. So definitely critical that you, before you go purchase that SUV for yourself, for your parents, or for your son or daughter, definitely discuss it with us. We'll tell you what the safest SUVs are, especially from a rollover standpoint. And also, remember, these SUVs, sometimes when they roll over, they roll, they turn over 3 or 4 times if it's a high speed. The strength of the roof pillars, these roof pillars that hold the roof to the body, there's a huge difference. And remember, if there is a flip over for whatever reason, if you're doing a high speed emergency maneuver and the vehicle flips over, as long as the vehicle is designed right, and there's a huge difference in the roof strength between SUVs. But as long as the strength of the roof is there, as long as you have the seatbelt on, you have a chance of surviving. If you do not have your seatbelt on and you get into a rollover, you have no chance. There's usually permanent damage or you lose your life. So the seatbelt saves lives. At the same time, you want to make sure the vehicle has got excellent roof strength, and not all SUVs do. We'll discuss it with you and explain it to you. So chassis systems, the engineering in the chassis and the technologies in the chassis and suspension differentiate a lot of SUVs. These days there are certain SUVs that, because of the engineering that has gone into the chassis and into the suspension, they handle better than a normal 4-door sedan. So basically the engineering and the technology is overcoming the physics, which is, these SUVs, as you know, they have a high center of gravity, which gives them a tendency to roll over. So like these days, you could see, something like an Audi Q5, some of the sporty SUVs, such as the Infiniti FX37, that handle better than, let's say, a normal sedan like a Lincoln MKS or a Lexus ES350. Again, huge differentiation, especially when it comes to SUVs. And we have to customize, tailor-make the safety of those vehicles to the person, to the individual, and to the type of roads that they drive. I can't emphasize that enough. I wanted to thank you for taking your time and listening to these programs. Safety is priceless. If you have any questions, I know I went over a lot of technical issues. If you have any questions, you could call me at the telephone number that you see on the screen. And don't forget to visit the website, www.ocautoconsult.com. Save the link, pass it to your friends, family, acquaintances. And again, thank you very much for taking your time. Take care.